Okay, good morning everybody. Today's lesson is a continuation, but a little bit deeper of this lesson that we had before about differences and how sometimes because people view us as being different, we look different, just like all these leaves that we looked at last time. They're all different shapes, they're all different sizes, they're all different colors. And because of that, sometimes our differences, sometimes people bully us and they say really hurtful things, or they don't include us in the things that they're doing because they don't think we're cool enough, or they don't think we're smart enough, for whatever those reasons are. But the most important thing is that from that lesson is that you remember that we are all God's creation and that He is about love, and He commands us to love each other and that we are precious. And so with that, I want to lead into this week's little message about 4 very famous Bible heroes, and even they were bullied. So maybe you know this wonderful story about King Nebuchadnezzar, big old name there, and he was the king of Babylon. And Babylon was this fabulous empire, and he ruled it. He had peaceful Jewish people all around him, and God loved the kingdom, and God loved what Nebuchadnezzar did, and he was so proud of the people, and so was the king. So the king decided he was going to watch all the young men in the village, I should say the kingdom, where he was, because he wanted to do something special, provide a different life for maybe 4 of them, 5 of them. Well, he chose 4. He chose 4 young men, and he sent a messenger into where they lived in Babylon, and he said, the king would like you to come to the palace. And they thought, oh no, what does he want us to come to the palace for? Well, so Daniel, yes, the story is found in the book of Daniel, chapter 3 in our Bible. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, big name, all went to the palace, waiting to see what the king was going to say to them. Well, the king said, I've chosen you because you show promise. And I believe that you can learn about the culture that you live in. You can learn about your people. You can learn about language. And so I have brought you to the palace to educate you. And I'm thinking to myself as I read that story again, wouldn't that be awesome to be called to a king's palace when you're just a young boy? To be saying, I want to help you learn? I don't think any of us would say, no, I don't want to. But anyway, so Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel learned, and boy, did they learn. They learned so well that God gave them special gifts. Well, the one gift that He gave Daniel was the ability to read and interpret dreams. And that was very important a little bit later in this lesson. And he gave for the other 3 young men, he gave them special talents and gifts as leadership and special wisdom. Well, as the story goes on, this king, had a very bad dream. And in that very bad dream, he always had dreams. And he would call in all his advisors, and they would he would say, tell me what my dream means. Well, they knew that if they told him what they thought the dream really meant, that he would get really angry. So they decided when he had this bad dream that they were going to make up a story. Oh, the king was so angry. He said, all of you will be put to death. Well, that included Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But Daniel, being very wise for his age, said, oh, please, king, I think I can tell you the meaning of this dream if you would just wait till tomorrow. Well, because the king really trusted in Daniel and knew that he was smart and had special gifts, he allowed that to happen. So Daniel goes back to his room or home, peace in the palace, and he prays to God. And he said, God, help me understand what this dream means, because I can't know this without your help. And so God helped him. So the next day comes, and here's the picture that goes with his dream. So the next day, he goes into the king and he said, King Nebuchadnezzar, I think with God's help, I can explain this bad dream that you had. And the bad dream was really about this huge statue. And the statue had a head that was made of gold. It had arms and a chest that was made of silver. And it had a belly that was made of bronze. And it had legs that were made of part iron. And all of these were very strong. But Nebuchadnezzar couldn't figure out why he was dreaming about this metal statue. But then the more important part of the dream was all of a sudden a big boulder came and smashed that big statue into all these pieces. And then a wind came and blew each of those pieces into different areas of Babylon. He had no idea what that dream meant. Well, Daniel explained to him that those 5 pieces of that big statue represented the 5 new empires that were going to come after Nebuchadnezzar's reign ended. And Nebuchadnezzar looked at him and he said, oh. And then all of a sudden he said, well, what about all the mountains that sprang up? And those are the new kingdoms. And so Nebuchadnezzar felt good and proud that he had trusted in Daniel, this young man. He felt so happy that he wanted to have a joyous celebration. So he built this gold statue, and when the horns would sound and the harps would play, everybody in the kingdom, and it's a huge kingdom, Babylon, were supposed to sing and dance and bow down to this idol. Well, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, we can't do that because we just can't do that. And there were all these jealous of people because Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had taken their positions, their jobs, and they were very jealous and they were trying to get them into trouble. This was the great time they could use to get them in trouble. And trouble they did get into because King Nebuchadnezzar heard that they were not bowing down and he ordered them to be bound and brought to him. So they bound him, tied up their hands behind their back, brought them to Nebuchadnezzar, and he said, throw them into the fire 7 times hotter than any fire that's ever been. Because I will give you one last chance, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, because you have been so good and so kind. Why will you not bow down? Because he is not our God. They were led off to that furnace, that fiery, burning furnace, and it had flames that jumped up. And in that furnace where the 2 men took them, they were looking in there, and the king said, I'm going to go check on that furnace and make sure that they are dead. The king walks into the area, and he looks through this big window. And in this big window, guess what? He sees an angel. He sees Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and of course Daniel was there somewhere. But in this picture, you see the angel, and the king is going, they don't even have a singe on them. Come out now. So they came out, and he looked at them. Their clothes were perfect. Not a hair was burnt. Nothing was on their skin. They were perfect. The king was so moved by these young men's faith in their God that he sent out a new decree. He had all the idols removed and crashed, broken all up, and he had the decree that there would be no other God than their God, because he was the most powerful God and could deliver people and deliver peace. And so Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel's faith in God and stood up to being bullied and thrown into a furnace never wavered one time, because that is what God does. And on that, I want to talk to you through a science experiment about trusting and letting God take care of us. Now, this is my made-up science experiment. God, in this lesson, sent an angel to comfort and save the people in the fire. Well, isn't that kind of like God offering us protection? He cradles us. Well, I have a real egg here. And in this real egg, I am going to drop it down into this. Yes, I put newspaper, I put 2 paper towels, and I put this plastic stuff. And we're gonna see if it's gonna be okay. So I'm gonna hold it up, and I hope I don't miss, and I'm gonna drop it down in there, and let's see if this can protect this egg like God protected Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Here's my egg. It's very, very safe, and it's been cradled by all of this, just like God cradles us. Now, can you imagine God's protection all around you like the wings of a giant eagle? That's what the Bible tells us He does. And if we can look at Psalm 91:4, He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge or safety. His faithful promises will be your armor and protection. And isn't that a wonderful gift for us to all think about as we live our lives, knowing that God's is like an eagle's wings, cradling us and embracing us and protecting us. You have a great week, and thank you for joining in this little message today.